So this is a follow-up video where the owner brought the car to us with the initial or the intention of carbon cleaning, and when I done the diagnostic, I noticed that the turbo is not working, the wastegate flap is broken, and let's have a look how we are with the car. Needless to say, the owner gave us green light to go ahead with the job. So Ben had already removed the turbo, which is there on the table, and as you can see, we are doing it in situ while the engine is in situ. It can be done. Few people ask me if it can be done, so yes, that's the confirmation. What you need to do, you need to remove the subframe. I'll include a little bit of details or tips how to do that in the next few clips, so stay tuned if you want to know how to remove the subframe and also how to remove the turbo. But basically the steps are the following. First, you need to drop the subframe, then disconnect the DPF, drop the DPF first, and then you can have access to the turbo. There's the DPF, and Ben is very fast. I can't keep up with him. He already removed the valve cover and refitted it, so he checked and confirmed that the camshaft is not worn. Injector washers weren't blowing out. Obviously, he replaced them, and also the cylinder head was yellow bronzish color, so that means it was clean. Regular oil changes were done on the car. We cleaned that exhaust pressure sensor pipe, and we cut that rubber hose a little bit because that was the rubber hose for the first sensor, which is a little bit longer. In the kit you receive a shorter one that needs to be fitted. Anyways, we corrected that mistake, and now what I wanted to show you, the carbon build-up side of the things. I'm going to be honest, it doesn't look that bad. I believe that has been taken care of at some point of the life of the car. Ben already stuck or filled 2 holes with napkins in order to not fall anything inside to those ports, because the valves, intake valves, are open on that one, and also he blocked off this coolant hole as well. So he's going to get that one done as well, and obviously all the parts will be cleaned. So the EGR bypass, the EGR cooler, and the intake manifold with the throttle body, and then the car will be fired up very likely, I would say tomorrow, and I can test it and give it back to the owner on Saturday. But stay tuned if you want to see the results, obviously, of the carbon cleaning, and also tips how to remove the turbo when the engine is in situ, and then how to install the turbo when the engine is in situ. So the carbon cleaning is ready or finished as well, as you can see, and now Ben is going to insert the bore scope, the camera, to the holes, and we're going to show you the valves. We can show all the valves, not just one valve is clean. If someone would mention that in the comment section that we only show one, no, we can show all of them. They are all immaculately clean, a lot better than it was before. So now the remaining part is to fit back the intake manifold and the EGR parts, but they still here, they need to be cleaned. Once that is done, Ben is going to fit back the turbo with the DPF and the subframe. I will show you how to fit it back, or tell you how to fit it back, what needs to be done, so that you can try and get it done on your own, or at home, or on a ramp, or wherever you have access, or whatever you have access to, or wherever you prefer to get it done. This is how it looks like from underneath, without the turbo, without the DPF, and without the subframe. And now Ben is going to fit back first the turbo, then the DPF, and finally the subframe. So basically, if you follow this video as a guide, you need to do everything in the reverse order. Obviously, first remove the subframe, separate the DPF, remove the DPF, and lastly the turbo. So as I said, firstly he's going to put back the turbo, he's preparing the bolts and the surfaces, and then also make sure you transfer everything from the old unit to the new unit, assemble it back together, make sure that the pipe, the lines are properly aligned, and then that way you will have a lot more, like a lot easier when you are going to fit the turbo back to its place, because as I said, the lines will align and you won't bend them, you won't force them, and you will have a lot easier life replacing the turbo. So it is not an easy job. You need to find those 4 studs and fit the turbo back on.
Okay.
So it is back on, and once it is on, you make sure you tighten them 2 nuts first. Sorry for the lighting. So I tighten them 2 bolts, and then it will be a lot easier working on it, and then you can do the rest of the bolts, which goes to the oil line, to the coolant lines. So there, 2 bolts there, so 4 bolts all together, and make sure you connect everything back together, and then you can carry on with the DPF. Ben didn't wait me with the DPF installation, but the subframe still has to go on. However, the car is already running. We will need to still install the subframe, which we're going to show you guys where the bolts are, which bolts you need to remove. But as you can see, the car is up and running. So the DPF removal or installation has been left out, but I can tell you what you need to remove for the subframe. It has few 17mm bolts and 19mm bolts. I'm not sure which one is which, but you need to undo this one. Exactly the same. So I'm going to show you only one side. So this bolt, you need to undo the bolt for the ball joint and the nut, the tie rod and nut, and the drop link. So those 3 you need to undo. Further, that big bolt, and there is one more. Yeah, there's one more in here. That bolt, and also it connects. I'll show you on another subframe, which we have here. So basically this is the subframe, this is how you remove it, and as I said, the bolt which goes here needs to be undone. The bolt which goes here needs to be undone, and there is another bolt here. It's a 10mm bolt that you have to undo, and the third big bolt goes in here. So that is one side, plus the ball joint, the tie rod end, and the drop link. And also in the middle you can see the transmission mount. One big bolt goes from this side. I believe that is a 17mm bolt, so I need to undo that. Exactly do the same on the other side as well, except the transmission bolt, because that is only one in the middle. Once you undone that, then we highly recommend either you be very strong, or you can use some kind of jack. If you're working underneath the car with a lift, you can use a transmission jack, a tall one, and if you are just on the jacks, you can use a transmission jack, but a short one. And then is assembling. Oh, sorry, and also you need to undo these plastic panels, either on both sides, so one here and also on the other side as well here. And basically that's how you remove the subframe. And the next one would be the DPF in order, and then the last one would be the turbo. So I'm going for a test drive now. I'm going to lower the car, take it for a test drive, and after that I'm going to check the live data values, show you them as well. And finally, once we are back, we're going to do a major service, so oil filter, air filter, cabin filter, and the fuel filter. Okay guys, I'm back from the test drive, and you need to see this, you want to see this, and I'll tell you what happened. So you will have a chance as well to fix your car in case you have or you are in the similar shoes. So as soon as we turn on the car, obviously, sorry, not obviously, the DPF light was on. So the DPF malfunction, the DPF soot accumulation too high, and basically I'm not sure if I showed that in the first part of this video. Have a look at the exhaust pressure sensor values, around 130 kPa at idle, when it should be 105 or between 1 and 105 at idle, meaning the pipe is blocked. So if I rev the car, those numbers should rise rapidly or quickly, which they fairly do, to be honest, but they don't go any lower than that. Have a look at the DPF sensor numbers. You see around 15, 16. Guys, that number should be 0.3, so that's extremely high. And these are the numbers which are ridiculously high. The accumulation of the particulate matter, you see that it's 19. Both of them are 19, and the bottom one is 49. So basically the DPF triggers the regen when these two numbers reach, I believe, around 6.5, maybe 7. So it hasn't done a regen, and let's check for how long. That is 2070 kilometers ago, which translates to, I would say, slightly less than 1500 miles. Before I went to the test drive, here I am in the scan tool, and let me show you the data points I'm checking. So basically here we are. That number, the differential pressure of exhaust gas, that number was 1 point something, and when I revved it to 2,500, that number was 12, I believe. And guys, have a look at it now. That is near like zero. That is literally zero. So basically there is no blockage in the DPF. It's like very good results. And also have a look at the exhaust pressure sensor. When I rev the car rapidly, the number will raise rapidly as well, and then drop rapidly back to 105. Let me do that. 3.5. You see. Let's have a look other numbers. Injector correction values. Those are not bad values, but I did reset the injector values, the pilot learning data. You can see here a bunch of zeros, which I'm going to do the relearn of it, and those numbers, these ones, the injector correction factors values will even be better. So here are the numbers after the injector relearn or pilot learn. As you can see, those numbers have changed for the pilot learn, and let's have a look at the correction values or factors. As I said, guys, the numbers improved. And let's have a look at another number which I want to show you guys. This one, the accumulation of the particulate matter. Those numbers before the DPF regen, that was, I believe, either 19 or 49. I can't remember. It doesn't matter. That was very, very high, extremely high. The DPF regen happens, I believe, when that number reaches 6.5 or 7. So basically it did the regen, and now you can see it happened 3 kilometers ago, let's say 4 kilometers ago. And now the DPF is unblocked. I didn't use any chemical to clean it. The car just done the job itself. And now let me tell you how you can repeat the same thing on your car. So basically, as I said, the light was on. I wasn't worried. So what I've done, let me show you what I've done exactly. So basically went to the special function, reset data, and I pressed this one, did the DPF reset, then came back, cleared the DTC. Then I went for a test drive. After a minute or two, the DPF light was back on, but I noticed that the car went into the DPF regen. So basically the icon, the blue background from the engine icon, that disappeared. I let that blue background to come back, so basically it finished the DPF regen, but that was just very short regen. Maybe it lasted for a minute, and again the DPF light was back on. I didn't get worried. What I've done, I pulled over and done exactly the same. So special function, reset data, DPF, cleared the fault code, took it for a test, carried on with the test drive. Again, the car entered into the regen phase, so the background of the engine light disappeared, and then it let the DPF regen to finish. As you can see, I've done 16 miles. Yeah, so it took around, I believe, maybe 14 miles to get the DPF regen done. It took me maybe, what God knows, like 20 minutes. So yeah, even though if it would have returned the DPF light after the second DPF regen, I would just carry on till I get rid of the DPF warning light and achieve the same results. So guys, this is an option. This is the very option I would go for if I face a DPF issue. Obviously, you need to know that the car, it had the turbo replaced because the wastegate flap was broken, so that is fixed now. We did the carbon cleaning and we checked the exhaust camshaft, and as you could see, you couldn't see, sorry, because we didn't record that, I believe, but the exhaust camshaft was not worn. We cleaned the exhaust pressure sensor pipe, so we made sure that was free flowing of air, and as I said, the carbon cleaning was done. Then we assembled the car back together, and then I took it for a test drive, and then I've done all this I've just mentioned in the previous clip. So those are the steps you need to make sure of, that those are done. You need to be 100% sure that those are done. Anyways, if they are not done, you can still try it. It doesn't or won't do anything bad. So basically, I didn't use any chemical. I wanted to make sure that first I do everything I can without any chemicals. No forced regen. I'm not fan of forced regen, you may know that already, and I very likely can guess or bet that DPF doctor or so-called DPF doctor, they would have just deleted the DPF from the software and drilled a hole on it. That wouldn't get anything fixed, to be honest. So yeah, feel free to use this method or technique to try to get your DPF light gone or sort your DPF issues. It was enough for today. It's not too late. It's 6:30. Not that bad. I'm going to take home another customer's car. When we've done the engine rebuild, I may do a separate video what was done on it. Basically, I'm going to do like a longer test drive. I want to make sure everything is fine before we hand back the car to the customer. But I'm ending it here in this video. Thank you guys very much for watching, and see you soon in the very next video. Until then, take care and bye bye.